My grandmother turned our foundation into a front for illegal organ harvesting, using my cousins and vulnerable locals as silent donors. So I exposed the money trail, unsealed my mother's hidden files, and tore down 3 decades of corruption with one move she never expected, data so precise even the court couldn't deny it. It started with a leak in the ceiling. A slow drip that led me into my grandfather's old study, the one room in the house no one ever touched since he passed. That's where I noticed the warped floorboard behind the bookshelf. I pulled it loose and found the safe. I almost laughed. It was so cliché it felt like something out of a bad movie. My name's Zaid. I'm 29. I live in Morrow Glen, a small town in Oregon where everybody knows everybody, and most people don't ask too many questions, especially about the foundation. Growing up, I always heard stories about how my family started it, the Alara Foundation. People called it a miracle, a charity that provided free medical care to people who couldn't afford it. My mother, Noreen, was the face of it. Everyone in town adored her. Kind, generous, the woman who changed lives. I was the sensitive kid, the one who got nosebleeds if I saw too much blood. You don't need to worry about all that, she used to say, brushing my hair back. You've got a good heart. We'll keep you far from the messy stuff. So I never asked questions. Not about the surgeries, not about the donor drives, not about why half the medical staff weren't listed on any public registry. But that night, standing in front of the safe with that floorboard still in my hand, I opened something I wish I never had. Inside were folders labeled with codes I didn't recognize at first. I pulled one out, dust stuck to my palms. Inside, photos, names, surgical records, footage. The footage was what froze me. Grainy, time-stamped, hidden camera style. I watched a woman, maybe early 30s, strapped to a gurney. The doctor was smiling. We'll only take one, he said. She signed the papers, even if she didn't know it. I sat there on the floor for what must have been 2 hours, going through folder after folder. Dozens of names. People I'd known growing up. People who were cured or went missing. And then I saw her face, my mother, shaking a surgeon's hand. She was coordinating it. Not just aware. Leading. I threw up in the sink. The next morning, I confronted my father. He looked at me like I had found his ghost. It was for the greater good, he whispered. We saved lives. I locked myself in my room and watched more. Testimonies. Journal entries. Financial ledgers routed through donation fronts. A kid I remembered from Little League, Ethan, his kidney was marked, retrieved. The Alara Foundation was harvesting organs. From poor people. From immigrants. From low-risk profiles who wouldn't be missed. I wanted to go to the police. I swear to God I did. But then I remembered, the police chief? Uncle Ray. My mom's brother. It wasn't just my family. It was the family. The town. The machine. For days, I didn't sleep. Just paced. Ate cereal dry from the box. Every time I reached for the phone, I'd see another face in those files. And the worst part? My mom, my gentle, beloved mother, had kept me out of it not because she was protecting me, but because she didn't trust me not to break. I was their liability. Their weak link. I thought I knew what rot looked like. But rot doesn't start loud, it starts quiet. Behind safe doors. Under old floorboards. In the mouths of people you trust the most. The reunion was held at the Alara Community Pavilion. White tablecloths, string lights, and the fake kind of cheer people put on when secrets are weighing the air down. I hadn't told anyone what I'd found. Not yet. I was still trying to figure out what the hell to do with it. Then my Aunt Carla raised her glass and said, "This year, we're introducing our new volunteer surgical initiative, and we're proud to announce that our own Mira has been selected." The clapping was thunderous. But I couldn't move. Mira, my cousin, my goddamn shadow from childhood, she looked stunned, then smiled, polite and hollow. I caught her eyes across the yard. She looked scared. Later that evening, I found her sitting on the swings near the old shed. I brought her a plate of pie, which she barely touched. "You okay?" I asked. "I guess," she said softly. "That announcement, did you know they were going to say that?" She shook her head. "They told me it was just a checkup. A follow-up from last year's tests." "What tests?" She hesitated. Then she said, "I had this weird stomach pain last year. They did scans. Said they found something benign. But they said it needed to come out. They operated." I never got a straight answer. My heart dropped. What exactly did they take? She looked up at me, pale. They said it was nothing serious. But afterward, I was sore for weeks. My mom kept saying not to worry, that it was routine. I stared at her. She didn't know. She didn't know. "Mira," I said slowly, "what if it wasn't what they said?" She looked at me like I had pulled the floor out from under her. 2 days later, I bought a voice recorder and asked Mira to meet me at the trail behind Grandpa's orchard, our old hiding spot as kids. I told her everything. Not the whole list, but enough. The safe. The files. The tapes. She didn't cry. She didn't even speak. Just stared ahead, pale as salt. Then she whispered, "You think they took my kidney?" "I think it's possible," I said. I think we need to find out. I showed her how to check her hospital file online. Most of it was scrubbed. The summary said laparoscopic cyst removal, but nothing else. No diagrams. No lab reports. Just vague nonsense. She agreed to help. Quietly. Carefully. That same night, I started recording more. Quiet dinners. Casual chats with my uncle, Myra's dad, who let slip that this new wave of surgeries is a real game changer. Less resistance when it's family. He looked at me like he was testing something. His smile didn't touch his eyes. I didn't react. Instead, I started compiling everything. File names. Hidden recordings. A list of foundation doctors whose credentials didn't line up. Board members who weren't real doctors at all. Mira sent me a voice message a few days later. Her voice was trembling. I found a scar I never asked for, Zaid. I think you're right. That's when I knew. The next operation had to be stopped. And it was going to start with her. The gala was always the crown jewel of the year, a fundraiser dressed as a celebration, complete with chandelier rentals, catered appetizers, and a steady stream of flattery disguised as gratitude. The town showed up in full force, smiling their way through speeches about generosity and sacrifice. This year's theme? The gift within. Irony's a funny thing. I wore a black suit I hadn't touched in 3 years. Mira walked in 10 minutes after me, pale but steady, wearing a long-sleeved dress to cover the scar we now knew wasn't benign. The main stage was already lit, a slideshow of happy recipients playing on loop behind a podium. My grandmother stood off to the side in a velvet blue dress, nodding regally at donors like a queen hosting a war parade. My Uncle Ray, police chief, enforcer, and public charm dispenser, stood center stage, smiling with microphone in hand. Tonight, we celebrate the courage of our newest volunteer, he said. 16 years old, and already giving more than most people twice her age. Applause. Cheers. Spotlights. Then they brought her up. Her name was Alina. Just a kid. Cheeks still round with baby fat, hair pinned up with a silver clip, eyes flickering with something between confusion and fear. She looked around like she wasn't sure where she was supposed to stand. And I lost it. I walked to the side of the stage, not rushed, not dramatic, just walked. Security blinked, unsure if I belonged there or not. I took the steps one at a time and moved toward the mic before anyone stopped me. I'm sorry, I said into the microphone, but before we start handing out awards, I think the town deserves to hear a few things. There was a ripple in the room, the sound of cutlery pausing, of glasses settling on tables. My uncle stiffened. My grandmother's face twitched, the first crack in the porcelain. I'm Zaid Elmi, I said. You all know me. Grew up here. Son of Noreen. The quiet one. Polite laughter. Nervous. Waiting to see where this was going. Well, here's something not so polite. The surgeries the Alara Foundation performs on these so-called volunteers? They're not what you think they are. Ray stepped forward. Zaid. No, I said sharply. You don't get to spin this. Not this time. I pulled out the flash drive I had looped around my keyring. This contains videos, contracts, names, audio recordings. You're harvesting organs from minors and poor families under the guise of charity. My cousin Mira? She had part of her kidney removed without ever being told. She thought it was for a cyst. It wasn't. Gasps. Murmurs. Movement. I turned to the girl, Alina, who looked like she was about to cry. You don't owe them anything. Do you understand? You don't have to do this. That's when it erupted. Ray grabbed the mic. My Uncle Basim, Myra's dad, stood up from the crowd and started pushing toward the stage. My grandmother barked something I couldn't hear over the roar. Then came the flash of camera lights. From the back of the room, 3 people started moving fast, not toward me, but toward the exits. I saw one of them pull out a press badge. Whistleblowers. I'd sent them the files 2 nights before, marked them anonymous, told them to be there if they wanted the real story. One of them started filming. Security grabbed at me, but Mira was faster. She shoved a dessert tray in front of them, screamed fire, and bolted. I followed. Through the side hallway, out the back door. By the time we hit the parking lot, half the gala was chasing shadows. Behind us, shouts echoed, my name, threats, demands. The cops wouldn't be far behind. Mira looked at me as we crouched behind a landscaping truck. Did it work? I pulled out my phone. Notifications were already rolling in. Oh yeah, I said, breathless. It worked. We weren't safe. Not even close. But for the first time, the silence was broken, and the rot was bleeding into daylight. By the next morning, I was fired. The director of the Morrow Glen Community Center called me in before opening hours, face already flushed with the pressure of someone who didn't want to be doing what they were doing. I didn't even get a chance to sit down. I'm sorry, Zaid, she said, not meeting my eyes. We've been getting calls. Board members, donors. It's too much heat. Because I told the truth? She flinched. Because you made a scene. This isn't personal. It was personal. I packed my things, just a mug, a few books, and a faded framed photo of a youth team I coached 3 summers ago. Kids who thought I was worth looking up to. No? Their parents probably thought I was dangerous. I knew the foundation would retaliate. I just didn't expect how fast. That same day, someone leaked pages from a private mental health journal I kept in college, stuff I had long buried. Anxiety episodes. Self-doubt rants. Therapy prompts. Suddenly, screenshots were floating on local Facebook groups with captions like, "This guy's unstable," and "Is this who we trust with our children?" The worst part? The handwriting was mine. There was no denying it. The file had been in a locked drawer at my parents' house, which meant someone in the family had gone looking. I changed my number. Didn't matter. My grandmother rerouted my emails. I caught her phone number listed as the forwarding contact on my old volunteer board login. When I called her out, she didn't deny it. "You're upsetting people," she said flatly. "It's for containment." Containment. "You've always had a dramatic streak, Zaid. This isn't about you." She hung up. Even Mira started getting cold shoulders. Her father, my Uncle Basim, told her she was being influenced by paranoia, that she was too young to understand what the foundation really does. Half our extended family ghosted me. The other half sent texts like, "Just let it go," or "Why ruin what your mother built?" Like I hadn't seen the receipts. Like I hadn't watched children wheeled out on stretchers under the glow of donor praise. At the grocery store, the woman at the bakery counter turned her back when I asked for a half-dozen bagels. At the gym, someone had written "traitor" on my locker in red Sharpie. My mailbox started filling up with anonymous flyers. "Protect Morrow Glen, stop false accusations." I bought a portable hard drive, backed up everything, duplicated every email chain, every photo, every voice recording. I printed dates, timestamps, even the metadata. I kept a log, every whisper campaign, every job rejection, every coincidental power outage at my apartment. They wanted me to look crazy, so I documented everything until their lies started looking like what they really were. A coordinated effort. And in the middle of it, I kept one photo pinned to the wall above my desk. My mother, smiling in an old newspaper clipping. Back then, the headline called her a pillar of compassion. Now I wasn't so sure what it had really cost her to wear that smile. But I was getting closer to finding out. I found the journal in a cedar box labeled Memorial Keepsakes. It had been collecting dust in the attic of my parents' old house, the one no one wanted to sell, but no one visited either. The attic still smelled like mothballs and old books. Most of the boxes were filled with photos, letters, newspaper clippings about the foundation. But the journal? It was tucked inside an envelope marked in my mother's handwriting. "Zaid, not yet." I opened it on the hood of my car, parked just outside the house. I don't know why I didn't wait until I got home. Maybe some part of me already knew what was inside would change everything. The handwriting was unmistakable, round and neat, with the occasional ink blot whenever her thoughts rushed ahead of her pen. The first page stopped me cold. "If you're reading this, it means I didn't finish what I started. I'm sorry." There were no dates, just entries, fragments of a woman trying to unmake the thing she helped build. They told me it was temporary, a stopgap until we could find legitimate donors. But the money came in fast. The first recovery netted over 70 grand from a client in Seattle. Suddenly, we weren't a charity. We were a marketplace. She had written testimonies, not from staff, but from victims. People who had been coerced. People who had been told they were undergoing minor procedures, only to wake up with pieces of themselves missing. One entry was just a name, Eduardo Velasquez. I remembered him. Quiet. Fixed bikes. Disappeared the summer I turned 15. I was told he had moved to Arizona. My mother had tracked down his sister, recorded the conversation. The transcript was paper-clipped to the page. They said he signed something, the sister had said. But he couldn't even read English. He was gone 2 days later. No one ever explained. The deeper I went, the more I saw it. My mother had been trying to dismantle the operation. Quietly, cautiously, like she knew what would happen if she pushed too fast. Then came the USB drive, taped to the back cover. No label, just a scuffed black casing and a rubber band. I plugged it into my laptop before I let myself think twice. Inside, a folder called Fracture. Documents, audio files, hidden footage. One of them was a voice memo. "If they find this, they'll erase me. Not literally, but from memory. They'll say I got sick or overwhelmed. But I see it now. This whole thing's a house of mirrors. The only way out is to shatter it." My mother hadn't been complicit, not completely. She had been trying to expose it, to burn it down from the inside. And I think they found out. I showed the journal to my dad the next day. I expected denial. Rage, maybe. But he just looked tired. "I tried to warn her," he said. She wouldn't stop. She thought if she played it careful, she could save everyone. She didn't realize it was never built to be saved. Then he did something I didn't expect. He opened his desk drawer and pulled out a legal pad. On it, a list of names. Doctors. Financiers. Code names I recognized from the safe. "I kept records too," he said. "But I was too scared to use them." We sat in silence for a long time. Then I said it out loud, maybe for the first time like I meant it. I'm going to finish what she started. And this time, I wouldn't do it quietly. I sent the first leak on a rainy Thursday morning. It was a zip folder, encrypted, backed up 3 ways, emailed to a medical watchdog group called Fair Health Now. They had a whistleblower portal I found on a Reddit thread about hospital fraud. I didn't sign it. I didn't need to. The documents would speak loud enough. Within 2 days, I got a reply. Subject: urgent, follow-up needed. Message: we've reviewed your initial documentation. Please call the secure number below. We believe this is part of a wider pattern. The name at the bottom was Nia Caldwell, an investigator who'd spent 5 years digging into unlicensed transplant centers. She didn't waste time. The patterns line up, she said when we spoke. Surgical scheduling anomalies, low-income targets, closed-door board practices. This isn't just a local issue, Zaid. This is a model. We've seen similar things in Missouri, parts of Texas. You think it's a network? I asked. I think it's a system, she said. And your family perfected the prototype. She wanted everything. I gave her the safe files, my mother's journal, Myra's statement, even a list of staff aliases I found in the USB labeled fracture. Within a week, the first article dropped. Small-town charity linked to unlicensed surgeries. A whistleblower comes forward. It didn't name me, but everyone in Morrow Glen knew. And the town, it cracked. Some doubled down. Fake news, they called it. Just a bitter son trying to tarnish a legacy. A few local business owners, ones whose names showed up in the financial wash ledgers, started lawyering up fast. One by one, the storefronts with proud Alara partner signs began quietly scraping them off their windows. Then came the real storm. A man named Darnell Thomas reached out. His brother died 5 years ago after a routine appendix surgery through a charity program in Northern California. The report said septic shock. Darnell said the family was never given full records. When I sent him a list of doctors from Morrow Glen's files, he called me back 10 minutes later, shaken. Same surgeon, he said. Different state. Same pattern. It wasn't just one town. This thing had tentacles. A federal task force picked up the chatter fast. Nia put me in touch with Agent Leong, a DOJ investigator who had been trying to crack open a series of suspicious clinic closures across rural counties. We always suspected something was being moved, he told me. We thought it was pills. But this changes everything. They started pulling financials, IRS filings, shell companies, multiple foundations linked by shared board members, including one where my grandmother's name appeared as a consultant. Then the warrants came. The first was for Dr. Cameron, head surgeon at the Alara Surgical Suite. Then came one for a regional logistics director, a guy whose job was supposedly transporting medical supplies. The feds believed he was coordinating mobile surgical units. I watched it unfold from my apartment like a man watching his house burn, not in grief, but in awe. One spark, and the rot began peeling back. Phone call stopped. My Uncle Ray suddenly announced early retirement. Several families in town, previously untouchable, quietly shuttered businesses overnight. The foundation's website went offline the following Monday. But the real victory? People started talking. Former nurses. Donors. One receptionist who thought she was just booking checkups and now realized she'd been scheduling extractions. The code of silence broke. And all I had to do was light the match. The courtroom was packed. Not just with lawyers and media, but with people from town, neighbors, former patients, distant cousins, all clutching some piece of confusion or betrayal. No one spoke above a whisper. No one smiled. My grandmother sat at the defense table in a slate gray blazer, hair pinned tight like always. She didn't look angry. She looked insulted to be there, like the whole thing was beneath her. The charges were stacked high: medical fraud, financial racketeering, criminal conspiracy, involuntary organ harvesting. 17 counts, all backed by evidence I helped unearth. She refused a plea deal. I built that foundation, she said in her official statement. You don't throw a life's work away because some people don't understand what sacrifice looks like. Her attorney tried painting her as a misunderstood pioneer. In underfunded regions, unconventional solutions must sometimes be pursued to save lives, he argued. Unconventional solutions. He said it like she'd handed out free tetanus shots from her living room, not orchestrated a black market transplant ring. When I took the stand, I wasn't angry. I was clinical. I showed the jury where the money went. I explained how the ledgers disguised donor extractions as voluntary surgical scholarships. I played audio from the hidden interviews, displayed diagrams, timelines, maps. One of the jurors cried during Myra's recorded statement. The prosecutor walked through the entire network like a roadmap, from small-town clinics to anonymous donors to falsified consent forms. You took organs from people who couldn't fight back, she said, pacing in front of the jury. Then you called it mercy. When my grandmother finally spoke, her voice broke, not with emotion, but exhaustion. You think this started with me? She said. You think I built this? I inherited it. This was survival. You wouldn't last 5 minutes in the rooms I've been in. You want to sit in judgment? Fine. But don't pretend you're cleaning something that wasn't already soaked in blood before I ever touched it. It was the first time she looked scared. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty. All counts. When the sentence came, 35 years with no parole, she didn't cry. She didn't even blink. Just leaned over to her lawyer and whispered something I'll never know. The foundation's assets were seized. Clinics shuttered. The Morrow Glen office was turned over to the state, along with full financial disclosures for reparations. Families were notified. Victims' names were confirmed. The national headlines came and went, organ fraud ring tied to small-town nonprofit. But the damage? That lingered. I started seeing a therapist through a trauma referral network. That was Myra's idea. She said, if we're gonna heal, it's not just about the truth. It's about what we do with it. I didn't know what to do with it yet. So I documented everything. The foundation became my obsession, not the lie it told the world, but the machine beneath it. I turned it all into a digital archive. Names, records, witness statements, scanned financials. A complete forensic blueprint. I called it the Ledger Project. Public. Free. Open source. People started emailing. Other whistleblowers. Journalists. Even medical students. The story didn't end in a courtroom. It spilled outward, into other towns, other networks, other rot. But at least now, someone was watching. I wasn't just the soft kid anymore. I wasn't just the quiet one who was too sensitive. I was the one who turned the lights on. And for the first time, I was standing in a room that could see me. It's been 5 years. Morrow Glen isn't the same town it used to be. There's still a scar under the surface, the kind people don't talk about directly, but you can hear in the way they pause before mentioning the foundation, in the way some neighbors still won't look me in the eye. But it's quieter now. And quieter can be good. I run a nonprofit out of what used to be the Alara Foundation's administrative building. It's been gutted and rebuilt. New walls, new floors, a new name above the door, the Consent Collective. We focus on medical ethics, informed rights, and patient advocacy. It's not flashy. No galas. Just real work. Every Tuesday, I hold a class for high schoolers called Know What You Sign. We walk through fake intake forms and dissect real-world loopholes. Most of them are bored the first week. By the third, they're angry. That's how I know it's working. I mentor whistleblowers now, kids, nurses, even a paramedic from Iowa who found a duffel bag of anonymized tissue samples in the back of a van. Most of them are terrified. All of them are brave. The old records room in the building is now a research archive. We named it after my mother. There's a bronze plaque outside that just says, Noreen Elmy, Truth Has Roots. I wrote it myself. I visit it often. Inside, her journal sits under glass. Her words, the ones no one wanted read, are now part of the curriculum at 3 university ethics courses. I didn't plan that. It just happened. Like justice sometimes does, long after the noise dies down. And then there's Mira. She's in her 2nd year of med school now, full scholarship, specializing in transplant ethics. She sends me voice notes whenever she's overwhelmed, which is often. She still hates hospitals, but she's learning to make peace with them. Last week, she sent me an envelope. No return address. Just my name in her handwriting. Inside was a photo of her standing in a white coat, smiling next to a cadaver lab plaque. Tucked behind it, a letter. You saved me. I didn't understand it then, but I do now. You didn't just stop the surgery. You gave me a future. I get to help people now, Zaid. Really help them. The right way. I folded the letter and kept it in my wallet. Right behind a faded snapshot of my mom holding me as a baby. Some legacies rot from the inside. Others, they bloom after the fire. This one? It's still growing. And I'm not running anymore. I'm rooted. This is where it begins again, not with secrets and safes, but with a choice. To speak. To stay. To build something honest in the ruins. And this time, no one's turning off the lights.